Welcome back to another episode of the Enrich Your Journey podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Monahan. Really excited. I think this is our 9th episode. I was just looking at some stats. We're now over 150,000 views, so thank you all for following us. We're still figuring this out. We've successfully now had some topics about financial planning and some guest interviews. Really excited about another guest interview today. I've got Braden with us. I've been following Braden on Instagram for probably 3 years, and just been really impressed with everything he's doing, everything he's building. And so I reached out to him a couple months ago. I said, hey, would love to have you on the podcast. This is a fun one. We're going to talk about social media marketing, food, which I love. I know he loves based on watching his all his uploads. And then we're also going to talk about, I thought it'd be cool just to talk about St. Louis City. He's got a really good pulse on the city. It's obviously a hot topic, at least for us here locally in St. Louis. So those are really the three things. I thought I would start off. I would love to hear you share your story about, if we start with your Instagram page, your marketing, how you got started, and just give an introduction to it. I think it's a really interesting story. We were kind of talking off air here about his background and just the success he's had in a really pretty short amount of time. We're only talking 2 or 3 years. So let's start there. Let's hear kind of, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of share your background and how you got started specifically in Instagram or just social media marketing as a whole.
Man, you said 3 years though. That was, man, I look back.
That's crazy. It doesn't seem that long ago.
Yeah, I look back at some of the photos and videos I took at that time, and I'm like, man, even like stuff I did 6 months ago, I look back and
it seems like
eternity, and it's just like, yeah, no, that's awesome, man. 3 years. So
it's really 4.
But it's like, think about how far I've come. I mean, now you have a podcast, but think about like where you've seen me go as just, hey, that guy that's like going to the neighborhood spot, and then now working with all the different teams in town. And it's, I guess, let me dive into that story. So born and raised South City, and as part of the DSEG program where basically I was bussed out to a county school. And so, I was just used to getting up early, going to the county school, and coming back home late night. And so got to see two different sides of St. Louis. And so I was like, oh, okay. I was just used to it. And then I went off I played a year of college basketball in St. Louis at a community college. I was like, all right, I need to go off to like a university, something bigger. And my then girlfriend, now wife, but we've been together for about 15 years. It was at that time, like, she was down at Missouri State, so I was like, all right, go Bears, let's go do it. And so it was either they were at Mizzou, and I went down to Missouri State, and I just loved the walkability of the campus. It was, at that time, I don't know what it is now, but it was more affordable than Mizzou, and I just liked that I can walk to class, I can walk down to the bars, I can go everywhere. And so I was down there and had a great time, and that's also like where I got to see a little bit more than St. Louis. And I traveled. I went on vacations as a kid, San Francisco, Seattle, Orlando, all these different places. But it was like I went away. I was living that college life and was able to join a fraternity, had a lot of friends. And so it was time to come back to St. Louis. And it was interesting. Like a lot of my friends lived out in St. Louis County. They lived in St. Charles, and they were like, oh, you're moving in the city, man? Oh, what about the schools? And I was like, first of all, I'm 22. I don't really care about the schools at that point. I didn't have kids, and I don't have kids now. But then also, I'm like, everything I like doing is in the city. I'm literally I'm probably about 8 minutes from the #1 city park in America. I'm about 12, 15 minutes for most things I want to do in St. Louis, whether it's sports, restaurants, things like that. And I love the convenience. And so my wife and I went back, and I was in the corporate realm. And so we call it 314 Day in St. Louis. And I just left my corporate job after 11 years. But during that time, I was traveling a lot, seeing different places, and I was offered, I still don't know the exact number, but I think it was like 13 to 16 promotions, and I turned them down. And I turned down working for some of the companies like we all have apps for that we use on a weekly basis. And something just kept me here. Like I knew I could have gone to other cities, and I travel, I see them, but I had no idea I would get into social media. So what happened was it was right around 314 Day. Some people call it Pi Day, but that's the day we celebrate St. Louis in 2020. And I think it was about the first Battlehawks game ever.
Okay, yeah.
I was at Bar Louie in...
Call, shout out.
Caw. Yeah, we can say that again, right? Did I say XFL or UFL? Well, at that time, it was the XFL.
Right.
So it was like the very first game I was watching at Bar Louie in St. Charles with my friends and my buddy's dad, Mike. He was like, Braden, you're going to all these different restaurants. My wife and I are seeing them, and we're writing it down, but sometimes we miss it. It's gone in 24 hours because you know how stories work. Yep. You should create a blog. And I'm like, no one follows just everyday people. They follow, the celebrities, musicians, athletes, things like that. He's like, no, people follow people, And I was like, oh, okay. So I think that was like February 2020. So I was going to launch on 314 Day. The world shut down on like March 12th or something. Yeah, right. And so I was like, oh no, because I had all this fun stuff lined up. March Madness tickets. I was going to be on the ice after a Blues game. All this and that, and I was building up some restaurant content at the time, and the world shut down. So I was like, what am I going to do? And so I launched on 413, which is just April 13th, nothing crazy. But it's the backwards 314. And at that time I was thinking like, I was getting all those ads on social media, and it was always, the chains that had the wings, the burgers, things like that. And I was like, man, my best memories in life has been at these like mom and pops. And, also to kind of like backtrack a bit, whenever my wife and I would plan trips, we would go on social media. Like that's where the first place we're looking. We'll go on YouTube. And I don't want to discount like what tourism boards do, because they're always a good like, oh, here's the thing. Yep. And you're like, I know I can see the arch. Right. How do I experience the arch? Right. And so that's where influencers, creators, they come in hand. So we plan so many different trips off that. And so I also created my account because like I just didn't feel like someone was sharing like my St. Louis lifestyle. It was more of, hey, this is how everybody in St. Louis is. This is how we think, how we feel. Here's the 10 things we do. And I'm like, I'll go spend $5 on a hot dog, and then I'll go sit or go to Olive and Oak or something, right? But I felt like it was always the same kind of St. Louis, and I was like, I'll sit in the last row of the stadium, and then 3 days later, I'll sit behind home plate in the green seats, right? No one was showing that at that time. View, yeah. And I'm like, there's more to this city than just getting off 64. Sure. There's going to a restaurant before a concert, things like that. And so I kind of knew what I would, if people would listen, where we could take the scene. It's going to be the people that help drive the tourism. I mean, there are people that reach out to me, and I know tons of other creators that have moved to the city. They use us as a resource. But during that time, it was, for me, just helping mom and pops. I had no idea I'd be doing this today. I knew marketing, but it was like I didn't have the strategies and stuff that I do now. So I think it was May of 2020, I started working on my MBA. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get an emphasis in marketing and let's see what happens. And I think it was halfway through it, I almost dropped out because I had straight A's. I was like, oh man, this is easy to me, And I felt like, but it has helped. My wife's like, come on, you're halfway done. It's a pandemic. You need something to do. So I finished it. I think I had like 1B or 1A. I had like a 392 MBA, emphasis in marketing. And so I see all the different kinds of campaigns and stuff that people push, and it was just interesting to me because I'm like, are you really taking into consideration the people? And I just didn't see, like, my approach to things. I know St. Louis of what it is, where it's at, and what a lot of people hope it can become. I know the people. I know business. I know corporate. Like, you have to sell. They're kind of like we talked about off air, some of the stuff that I do. I have to make sure some of my content will be relatable for someone that is, a C-suite executive. Because,
definitely.
You as, let's say, a manager director, you're trusting me to make you look good. So when you present that to someone else, they're like, oh, I see the value. Yep. So I got to make sure you're looking good because you're looking out for me, and then it goes up the ladder. But yeah, I know at corporate, at the end of the day, creativity is fun. We should embrace art, but businesses will invest in you if there's that return on marketing investment. Yep. And I'll let you go. I feel like I'm rambling.
No, it's good.
I can dive.
So this this whole concept, you went live April 13th, 2020. So you're 4 years old, just a little over 4-year-old, and you grew this from no one to how many followers do you have now?
I think
because you're on multiple platforms.
Yeah.
Primarily Instagram though, right?
Yeah, Instagram I think is 25, TikTok's 12. I run another page on Instagram, STL Food Vlog. It's like 13. But it was never about me having the biggest account, because people were like, "Hey man, you should just see how big you can make it." I'm like, let me make all these other people around me, help them. Like some of the biggest platforms on Instagram right now, the biggest pages on Facebook, the biggest TikTok. Like I helped them out early with strategy on just food. They used to sit in, like I used to do these things for free where I'm speaking to a bunch of business professionals, and I laid out the blueprint, like literally of what it would take. And people were wondering, they're like, well, why don't you do that? I'm like, if I can build up all these people around me, one is going to make the city look good, because some people just don't care to see me, hear me, or think about me. But if this other person that has this interest in going to a City SC game or eating that local food, and that's what gets them in, great. But if I can grow all these people around me, that's how the next phase of what I do. I can't talk too much about it, but people will see in the next, in June, July, maybe August, that's how I can do it. But it's all been a strategy. Most of the time I was just hoping, like, can people do this? Can people grab one? But it was always about building up people around me. So that's why you see me on everyone's platform versus just mine.
Yeah, makes sense. So you went from 0 to, you're at 50,000. Primarily, we're talking off air. Now you're known as, people see you, they call you the food guy.
Yeah, that one guy.
I don't know how you're still fit. You have all this amazing food, but that's how I found you. I'm sure that somehow the algorithm, the restaurants I follow in town and the content that Braden's been putting out is really good. And so you're growing. You may not even know it yet. You're growing a business, which is now you own and you run, but you're also having really fun, and you're showcasing the city that we live in, right? It's kind of a win-win for everybody. So you've grown it. Now you've got bigger brands. I mean, this is on your bio. You've worked with now, obviously, the St. Louis Cardinals. You worked with Disney. You've worked with Schnucks, Coca-Cola, Anheuser-Busch, Four Seasons. You're now kind of growing this into a bigger thing. Now you have your own company called Space Mission Marketing. What does that look like? Is it just continue your mission? Are you going to stay in the food industry? I do want to come back.
Oh yeah.
I want to talk about some of the best food that we have here for everybody, locally. But I guess, what's the future of what you've built? It's arguably been very successful for you. You built it in a time where, we were all primarily working from home, so we were tied to our phones a lot. The timing was great, but you did a phenomenal job building really good content, which helped you get in front of all these brands I just mentioned. What's the next phase of it? Is it just continuing the food scene, or are you kind of branching out? What does Space Mission look like for anybody watching that even is applicable, that may use your services, may be interested?
Yeah, so Braden STL is its own business, LLC. And then we have Space Mission Marketing, LLC. So Braden STL, I tell people sometimes it's cheaper to work with Space Mission Marketing than it is with Braden STL because of the trusted name, the trusted brand. Just because you're a Space Mission client doesn't always mean I can talk about you. Like, it doesn't create that ad space for you automatically, but there are those opportunities. So to talk about Space Mission Marketing and how that even came about, it was February of 2022. I started to realize, like, my ideas, I was on KMOX talking about this, and a question came up, like, when did you realize you could leave your corporate job? And I was like, I started to realize a lot of my ideas and strategies I was helping people out with started making them a lot of money. And I was like, okay, let me just stick it out, let me get to 2024. I had kind of a plan because it's, I'm married. I have a house. I can't just take that big risk. I have to be a little bit, need a little bit of security there. But Space Mission Marketing, we do everything from social media content, obviously photos and videos. I see it too often, and I don't want to knock any agencies, but they just, take the photo and they post it and they pay for ads. And it's like, think about how much money you're spending on ads versus if you could probably spend half the money almost having a really good video or something that's super engaging than paying Meta. And Meta is the reason I've been able to get to where I'm at, right? With social media. But it's like, I've seen so many people do that. I'm like, well, I have all the creators, and that's another thing I do. I help teach creators strategies and also the business side of it as well. But so yeah, we do photos, videos. One of the biggest things really in the last month has been consulting. I kind of thought like, hey, everyone's going to want my photos and videos, but a lot of people, they're like, let's just get you in for consulting. So people will hire me for about, we do like a minimum of 10 hours at least a month, because that's the only way I can actually give it, like I can look into it instead of just giving you the same cookie cutter approach every client.
Really learn what they're looking for,
yeah,
their business, their sector.
Who do you look up to? Oh man, I love that person's podcast, or I love that person's approach. How do we do that here? Okay, this is our budget. We come up with the whole plan, and that's something with some of the companies I talk to. I mean, it's crazy. It is absolutely crazy because they have the reach to bring in tens of thousands of people into their venue, or reach tens of millions on their platforms, streaming services, things like that. So there's that consulting side. We also have events. So like last year, I was able to help put on a taco festival where we thought we were only going to get 5,000 people. We ended up getting 16,000.
Wow.
And I laid out the strategy of, hey, here's our grassroots approach. Because I get to attend all the festivals and I see what works and what doesn't. And so we put out this strategy. It did well. Had a holiday pop-up there, Avalanche at Work and Leisure in Midtown. We had over, I think, 2,200 people in 19 days, which now more people are starting to go to Midtown. But literally just 5 months ago, it was hard to get people there.
Yeah.
So we have that event side. We have a summer pop-up called Summer Camp. That will be at Work and Leisure. It'll be kind of like Wet Hot American Summer, like that theme. It's 21 and up, so that'll be a good time. And then there's the non-exclusive talent agency. So that one is the one I enjoy doing it all, but that's the one I think that's going to help St. Louis overall, like as a whole, really reach its potential. So the creative realm, influencer marketing, the creator industry is over a $20 billion industry, and St. Louis has not tapped into it, which is crazy. We have almost 2.83 million people. We have not tapped into it. We are always a bit behind, and you see things happen this coast, that coast, down here, hits Chicago, Nashville.
And here we are.
And then we're like the last ones, right? Like the City Foundry, great concept. I go there a few times a month, but it's like that was in Seattle back in 1880 or something, or I don't know the exact year. But the creator economy is something St. Louis is missing out on. A lot of people are still like, I don't know about that social media, and forever it was kind of like, dang man, like we could use that support. But now a lot of us creators are like, cool, you don't want to do it. We're creating our own stuff. We at the end of the day, businesses and dollars will go to where the eyes are and the people are. Yep. So if you don't want to support, man, this is some good stuff. This is some good content, man. But it's like, if you don't want to support us when we're trying to help your event, your festival, it's like, cool, we'll just do it ourselves.
Yep,
we know we have our group, our people that we can bring and help make sure it's a winning situation, not just where I win and no one else is. We can make it to where it grows. We build everyone's brands. But the creator economy, man, St. Louis hasn't tapped in. I know with the content that I do and I've done and the strategies, like you cannot get on your phone right now without seeing a video of food.
Yeah.
Who's the first one that started making those short form videos, right?
Yep.
And I know each month my financial impact in St. Louis, we're talking minimum $10 million at the minimum of economic spending. And people are like, oh, that's crap. And I'm like, I only have about 25,000 on Instagram right now, but I know my stuff is reaching 500,000 people. Yep. Those 500,000 people,
the power of it, yeah.
500,000 people, family, friends, colleagues, catering events, weddings,
Yep.
out of town, coming in, spending money at hotels, spending money at sporting events. And so that's where I'm really passionate about creators, because we also have so many talented artists. I know so many people that are leaving out to go to LA, New York for more opportunities. We're not providing that. We have the backdrops of every city. We have the beautiful graffiti wall that brings in 25,000 people a year for a festival. We have Forest Park's a given. That's one of literally such a beautiful place to record.
Yeah.
Like we have it all.
Infrastructure, yeah.
And it's like, that's where, you talk about the future of what I'm doing. It's like, I'm very passionate in working with St. Louis companies if they're willing to see the value, but also it goes back to like the events. It's like I've tried, you name a company and I can almost tell you I've tried to work with them and figure out how it works. And I want to work with them. I really, really do, because let's build it up together. Yep. We don't have to be a St. Louis company just paying New York creators, just paying Chicago. Like we have people here in St. Louis that have to travel outside to host some of the biggest events, like a lot of Super Bowl stuff. That's a St. Louis company that's putting that stuff on. A lot of big festivals, it's a St. Louis company. So that next phase is people know the sauce that St. Louis has. They know it. Metro Boomin has shaped hip hop the last 10 years. Jason Tatum, one of the top basketball players in the world, right? And we can talk. I mean, there's so many other people. You look at The Office, so many jokes every day. How many 2 St. Louis people on that? Yep. So St. Louis has what it takes, and if it's out of town companies that are willing to work with the creativity in this city, if that's what it's going to take, like let's bring in the chains or what, not chains, the bigger companies, right? The big beverage companies, the big soda companies, if they're willing to work with us creators and we just create some content, you pay that influencer, that content creator $10,000. They pay a videographer $2,000. Guess what? That videographer is probably going to take that money, get himself a new camera. That influencer, it's reinvesting. Yeah. So if that's what we have to do, that's what we're going. Man, I can talk about this for days.
Great content, yeah. So a long, great answer to my question. The power of what you've built and just social media marketing. I mean, he just said it. He feels conservatively he's impacting the city $10 million. I mean, it's $120 million a year that you are yourself are impacting in the
the minimum
in the food business at the minimum. And that's amazing power of social media marketing and his expertise. Can we talk food?
Let's do it.
We've already eaten that. We should have done this like right at lunchtime.
Yeah.
I want to hear, just for fun, like what are if you're watching this, because this is obviously on the interweb, so this is going out all over. So maybe you're coming to St. Louis this summer, maybe you have family here, maybe you want to come here, maybe you want to go to a Cardinals game. So if we're talking city specific, what are the top 2 or 3 that are kind of fly under the radar that you really like, have a good vibe, just maybe the backdrop? You talk a lot about the backdrop. I'm interested in that because, I mentioned off air, he's, a lot of people see Braden and say he's the food guy. So, without seeing his content, just what are the 2 or 3 that, you think are kind of, they're underrated?
I think that's fair to say underrated, because it's you would almost hear the same people saying the same places, right? Like I love emos. I get emos, often, right? But it's like, let's talk about underrated places.
Right. One's less known of, right?
One that I got some heat for it, but we're
not sponsored, by the way. So
we're not.
These are just.
This is just like
very objective.
And if I forget
opinions here,
like I may text you later.
Don't be mad at him if he forgets somebody out there.
I'll probably text you later. Oh man, I actually meant to say that. But the one, like last year, I put the number 1 place for me was STL Toasted, and some people's like, how do you pick a ravioli spot as your number 1 favorite? And I was like, look, they reimagined a stapled dish, the toasted ravioli. Yeah. And it wasn't like, oh, let's just make a cheese. I think they do have a cheese one, but it wasn't just that. They're at the City Foundry, which is a really cool newer spot, but they did have the traditional one for a little bit, the Italian beef. They've had, which was good, one of the better ones I've had. They had the buffalo chicken. They've had brisket. Man, I'm like going blank on. They had a loaded potato. Right now, they have like a jalapeno popper one with this like candied bacon that's like a drug.
Wow.
So freaking good.
Wow. I'm be hungry after this section.
Man, for dessert, they have like a crumble cookie one. Or is it crumble? I don't even know if that's actual cookie place. Yeah, cookie crumble. There we go. Cookie crumble one, and then they have a key lime pie. This is a staple dish. Everyone's like, go, you come to St. Louis and you got to get toasted ravioli. And a lot of times when they go to that kind of get that, it's not good.
A little disappointing, yeah.
They are, oh, this is burnt. This is
too crispy.
You go there, I guarantee you're going to have a great time.
Shout out STL Toasted.
Man, I've been there Like last year, I went so many times, and this is also why I put that at number one, at least in my opinion, to check out, and it's underrated. I took at least like 7 different people, whether it was like my parents, my brother, a colleague, whatever. Every single person went and had a great time. I actually just went like 3 weeks ago. I grabbed something else at the Foundry, and this person's like, "All right, man, you said this is good. I got to try it." Literally bought 4 and went back for 4 more. Like that's why. Like.
All right.
People are hooked. So
I've not been, so we're gonna hit that. We're gonna hit that place.
oh man,
What's number 2?
Number 2, I would say rated for underrated is Rated Test Kitchen. It's in downtown. The chef I've become good friends with is Juwan Rice. He's been on Guy Fieri's Guy's Grocery Games. He's only 22. He's been on that. He's been on the front cover of a lot of magazines, and he is somebody that is like changing the game. Like I think it's every other month they switch up the menu, so they're on different chapters, and so it's the menu set. I think it's a 5-course. I can't remember. The drinks are good there too, you know, but it's I think it's like 5-course at the least, and is it 5 or 7? But like each course is very different. It's adventurous. It's like, think about, you go to a restaurant, you see something you kind of like, you're like, I'm going to take that. But this is coming to you. Like, yeah, you could look at the menu ahead of time. I love the surprise, because the stuff that him and his team create, like, man, St. Louis doesn't realize what they have.
Like, look that. I've not heard of that one.
It's worth every dollar. So Rated Test Kitchen is down the street, kind of from like Busch Stadium by the old AT&T.
Yep.
Building, but it's man, the food there is always good. It's top notch. The drinks are good. It's a small, intimate vibe, so it's not like overcrowded and loud. You know, it's about 20-something people, but his food, man, you're gonna try it, and you get to watch them prep it in front of you, and sometimes make it too.
What's the last one in the city?
Number 3.
We're gonna give 2 bonus shout outs in the county. How's that?
Oh man, yeah. Underrated. Where's the place I've been going to? I'm trying to think, because a lot of the places I feel like are rated appropriately, like in the sense of everyone's like, oh, that's so good.
Right.
Farm Truck, man. Have you had Farm Truck? Oh, wow. So they have this brisket mac and cheese. One of the best things I've ever had in my life. So
you had
good.
That recently?
Yeah,
I saw that in one of your recent ones.
They have it at Busch Stadium now for Cardinals games.
Yeah.
Good Lord, man. And her Reuben, like, you know, the bar is high. Like, okay, is this going to be a good Reuben, you know, especially how prices are nowadays. And obviously it's a local business, so price is going to be a little bit more. You're supporting the local economy. But, like, man, when I took a bite of that Reuben, like, her brisket mac and cheese is the only thing I eat at a Blues game. Like, I've had everything there. And don't get me wrong, a lot of good stuff there. But goodness, man, that brisket mac and cheese from Farm Truck. And she has a food truck as well, too.
Where's her location?
So she has the food truck. She's in City SC Enterprise Center in Busch Stadium.
Nice.
So conveniently located.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then 2, just come to mind, the county. Now we're going out of the county where you got a lot, bigger space.
Yeah.
That might be hard. That might be a tough question.
I know, man. Hey, it was nice coming out here to Creve Coeur today. You know, I got
him out of his bubble.
Yeah, it's
from the city.
Are we past 270?
We're close.
We're close to 70. Okay. Yeah, we I mean, the county counts at Skinker, right? Once I pass Skinker.
True.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm trying to think. So, man, I should have prepared for this one.
I haven't put you on the.
Okay.
Put you on the spotlight.
No. We can keep this clip because a lot of people will be giving me some good recommendations. Man, so we're. Oh man, Vivola's. Have you been there? The deli?
I know of it.
Oh, dude.
You gotta wait out line. You gotta wait in that line, but apparently it's worth it. I do know it.
So
Brett, the guy, his family owns it. I've heard it's amazing.
Man, so St. Louis is a deli town, and I didn't realize that until I was like, you know what? Let me start these deli videos where I go to like 4, and I'm like, St. Louis delis to visit, part 1, and the thing had like 200,000 views and a lot of comments, and they're like, you forgot this, you forgot that. Yeah. Everyone's like, he forgot Vivola, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to do it. And I think I went in the second video or third video, like each one of those get over like. Not the last one, but almost, because it's the 5th one, but almost all of them got over like 150, 200,000 views, and everyone's like Vivola. So I went there one day, and I tried it, and I was like, damn, man, that was like one of the best sandwiches I've had. And then he's like, hey, man, here you go, the meatball. Just try the meatball. And I had the meatballs, delicious. And then I started drinking that like marinara sauce.
Yep.
Like literally drinking. It was that damn good.
I follow them on a Facebook group. St. Louis sandwich connoisseurs, and they're like always at the top on that Facebook group. So
I
didn't
gotta
even think about that one. I'm glad you had it because I've been wanting to try it.
gotta go.
Yeah.
That's in this area, I think, right?
Yeah, it's close. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
close.
Maryland Heights maybe.
Yeah.
That
Go down page off page. So
sounds like you're going now.
I need to go.
It-
Well, let's go together. I'll invite you. We'll do it again. Any others that come to mind in the county for all of our foodies?
Man, I just had it a few weeks ago. Olive and Oak.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, that's not underrated. They're rightfully rated.
Yeah.
God, that
Great
food was
vibe
good.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a cool
Exceptional
spot.
service. It was the first time I actually went. I'm kind of weird, man. When everyone hypes a place, I'm like, okay, cool. Let me go somewhere different.
Yep.
Um,
Which is part
But-
of your success, wouldn't you say?
yeah.
Based on what you just said, people are interested. Everybody, a lot of people know Olive and Oak, and you know what to expect
Mm-hmm.
because of how well it's known. But when you come across STL Toasted, everybody's giving you trouble about that. You're like, what are you talking about? And
Yep.
they go to it, and they're like, you're right.
Yeah.
And I would have never gone there if I wouldn't have watched your review. Like, that's what I think people are always kind of yearning for. Like, what else is? That's why I posed the question. What else is out there that we haven't really heard of? And I know there's. I mean, like you said, we got 3 million people here. I know they're all over the place.
Yeah.
But it's the ones we haven't heard of that kind of make it fun, right?
Yeah.
Like Olive and Oak is fantastic. It's a
Yeah.
great vibe. You come to expect great service. The food's going to be great.
Balkan Tree Box, they're properly rated. Like they're great. One of my top favorite places in St. Louis. They're probably, but like that's the thing, they're not underrated. A place that has come up twice recently on my podcast has been, Paul Manos. I haven't been there, but Ozzie Smith and Tamara of Clementines both have mentioned it.
Yeah.
They're like, you walk. I haven't been there yet, so that's one on my horizon. I may go
shaking
today.
his head. Our producer in the background, that's in his neighborhood, and it's a good staple, good spot. Really good, cool place. You need to go.
Actually, I may go there. I'm going to be out that way
Good
for
date
the next
night.
few hours.
Good
so,
date night spot, though.
hey man, self care. You got to take yourself
That's
out
true.
sometime, right?
That's
No, I'm just
true.
kidding.
Well, that's awesome. I love talking, food and just the success you've had. Obviously, the power of social media marketing. I encourage anybody watching this to check out Space Mission. Go to Braden STL on Instagram. He's got some phenomenal content. If you're a foodie like myself, again, that's how I found his handle, and it's been awesome. He's having a lot of success. Obviously, working with major brands that I mentioned earlier. So feel free to reach out. I want to kind of the third sort of end with. A topic that comes up a lot in our business, just with clients that live here, and just generally speaking in the economy and what's going on in the market, but more on a local perspective, is our city, right, and where we live. And we're both from a close area here in St. Louis. And what actually came up recently was a client brought to my attention an article I didn't see. It was in the Wall Street Journal on April 9th, talking about basically how vacant downtown the city is from a commercial real estate perspective. And there was a Wall Street Journal columnist that was down there taking pictures, got a lot of interviewed people, business persons that had since left. It's a pretty quick read, but man, it didn't paint us in a great picture, right? It was talking about these massive buildings. The railway exchange building was predominantly featured in the article, just about how big it is. It's been empty for years. There's nothing around it. There's graffiti. There's a high crime rate. Being from here, living from here, when we're two guys in business that have a lot of great contacts, networks here. We care about the city. Our families are here. You don't want to read that, right? You don't want to see that. But at the same time, it's factual, right? I mean, there's a lot of things in there that, this columnist was just, he wrote about his perspective and what he saw when he visited. We know there's attendance down at some of the sporting events. I hear it often from people that, they don't necessarily really feel super comfortable going down there, right? Again, all things that we don't want to hear because we live here, we reside here, we're raising families here, and all of our friends are here. But I wanted to get your perspective because you have such a great pulse because of everything you just talked about. You're working with major companies in St. Louis. Obviously, we mentioned St. Louis Cardinals, like really, really good, well-known companies. You're touching a lot of different teams and personnel inside these companies. Your business is downtown. Would love to get your perspective, all the interaction you've had, even if you just go back to 3 or 4 years since you came out, since you, I would say, went viral with your Instagram page. What is your take on the state of, now we're just talking the city, not the county. What's your take on the state of the city and what you're hearing from some of these businesses and what they think and also what you think that it's going to take to right this ship to where, this columnist isn't flying in to look around downtown to write a big article in the Wall Street Journal to showcase and compare us to all the other major metropolitan areas that we're way down on the list. It's a major initiative. It's obviously a multi-year one, but you even mentioned off air that there's a ton of development going on down there. So you have a really interesting and relevant take. I would love to just have you share that, even for our local crowd here, or if we have outside, out of towners that are coming in, like we mentioned earlier for a Cardinals game. Would love your perspective on that.
Man, the way you put that was really, you painted the picture. It was really good on what people say, how people think, and you can't, I can't deny, like, that's how a lot of people see things. And it's with what the Wall Street Journal said, like, you can't deny, like, do I feel safe, like, when I'm walking downtown at night? And I kind of tested this out like 2 weeks ago. I was in Chicago, and my wife and I, we're like, what, let's order some pizza. And we went to a touristy spot there, but we're walking 6 blocks, and, we're not supposed to be outside in Chicago at nighttime, right? But, like, we're tourists, so we didn't know anybody. But it was like, we had a great time. It was safe, Chicago downtown. It was beautiful, and it's a thriving downtown. And I was like, man, it's weird to just, like, walk around, and, things can happen in any and every city. Sure. It can happen, any parking lot. But it was like we were walking around, and we felt okay. We were seeing other people, other couples. When you go to downtown St. Louis, you don't really see that often, right. And you get afraid of, like, the dark alleys. I don't think, St. Louis has too many municipalities, and all the city county merge has been a big debate, a big topic, a big debate, and people aren't willing to do those any kind of merge for the betterment of the overall area, and that's how we miss out on getting huge corporations. That's one of the reasons. But yeah, like downtown, there's a lot of stuff that's happening on the upside of it. So I would suggest everyone to Google Gateway South. You can find the renderings on what's actually happening. I've been able to, like, it's public knowledge now. Like, I've been able to see that, all the
It's been
credits.
In the Business Journal, I think, too, the St. Louis Business Journal a couple times. I don't know if renderings are in there, but that's a massive development.
Over,
it sounds like it's moving.
$1 billion, I don't even know.
Yeah.
But that's going to be huge for the area. North St. Louis, for many years now, there's been bidding wars on the plots of land ever since the NGA announced a $2 billion facility. So what is that going to do? It's going to bring, and you're seeing all these apartments starting to pop up everywhere. When that starts opening, a lot of employers are requiring people to go back to the office or move to the different cities.
You got to support all those workers there every day.
We're seeing all these. I get to talk to transplants all the time, and they see so much. They see the opportunity. The mindset, like, not saying for everybody in St. Louis, but it's like, I'm not going to go down there. You know what? Let's build this new downtown area. Let's say downtown Chesterfield. I think that's going to be great for them, but I don't think it really helps to, when most people travel, they're thinking about, let's go downtown. That's the place to be. Like, I was just talking to someone. She was like, she's looking to date a guy who just moved to St. Louis and moved downtown, and she's like, why did you do that? But it's like, I think the downtown, we just gotta. I don't see it happening soon of changing people's mentality towards it. We had all those sporting events the other day. 100,000 people down there for sports.
Saturday, yeah.
I don't know. I didn't see any, like, murders in that area, things like that. I would say for me, I'm huge on our city needing to invest in its youth. We can put up all these gates, we can put up all the security, whatever. We can keep trying to push people out of the neighborhoods they grew up in. But, like, I felt like with the Rams settlement, that was the one time we were like, okay, let's give St. Louis public schools some extra money, right? You're not going to solve crime, you're not going to stop it, but, like, invest in the youth, give them kids opportunities. Like, we think of the dumb things we did when we were younger, and we're happy we made out on top,
Sure.
But I'm huge on investing in the youth. So kind of going back to like just a downtown overall, I think it's the mentality, but also even within the city, people are so guilty of not leaving their bubble.
Yeah.
They don't leave like, hey, I live on the hill. Like I love the hill. Or I don't live there, guys, so don't try to find my house. But like the hill is like it's like our little Italy, right? But
Yeah.
a lot of those folks, I don't need to go down there.
Yep.
You know,
Got everything they need right there. Yeah,
and
you're
so
right.
I think it's what I would challenge people to do is if you're looking forward to something on vacation, you're not gonna find a beach here. But if you're big into art and like, oh, I got to go to New York to experience this, I literally just left the Pulitzer Museum earlier today. Checked it out for the first time. I was like, oh, so this is the one Jay-Z was just at a few months ago, right? Because part of their house is designed by the same person that designed that. That's a free art museum. I still need to go to Contemporary Art Museum. But like before you go out of town to experience the MoMA there in New York, which is absolutely beautiful, why don't you experience everything here in the city?
Yep.
Go to a local restaurant before you go to Oakland, wherever, to go see Graffiti Wall, right? The graffiti art, like I would even recommend for you to check out. It's called Paint Lewis. And, graffiti art used to be frowned upon for so long. You go down to Paint Lewis, you can take your kids there. 25,000 people come from all over the world. And I don't know about the people watching. I'm not an artist, but to begin with the end in mind, where you have a 50-foot slab of concrete that's 14 foot tall, and in 3 days you're going to turn that thing into like this beautiful mural.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And you understand, in 3 weeks someone can paint over that, but that's just the culture of
Yep.
it. And you go down there, and they make it where kids can go down there. Like there's someone will paint the Transformer, someone will paint Scooby-Doo, robots, whatever. The art is so beautiful. Grand Arts District, a great place. So I think we gotta I would challenge people, if you live in St. Louis, go to some of the free stuff we have.
It's awesome advice. I mean, really just kind of get to know more about what we have here. And maybe I think what I'm hearing you say is maybe not trust everything we read about how bad it is until we go down there and experience some of these places that you can, if you look up some of these places you're talking about specifically and learn about what they have going on, maybe that makes you feel more comfortable going down there and checking it out yourself. Instead of seeing a broad article about crime's up, right? Well, that's so generic. What does that even mean? Does that affect where I'm going to go if I'm going to go check out this Paint Lewis? Is that something that happened there, or are they just saying in general? So I think what I'm hearing you say, it's great advice, is just do more research about everything that we have available in our backyard. I think it's great advice.
Well, it's like I've been in New York several times, and you experience the best and worst of humanity in like the first 10 minutes being there, right?
Yes.
But you're like, oh, I'm in New York, and like a lot of people will probably throw on some Frank Sinatra or Taylor Swift, whichever New York song, or Jay-Z, whichever one you like, and you're like, oh, guys, this was a great time. But then there was like one thing you saw in the news 3 weeks ago that prevented you from going to explore your city.
Yep.
Like, and just be smart. Like I can be out here in Creve Coeur with my book bag in my car and it gets broken into. Am I going to think, oh, I should never go back to Creve Coeur?
Sure.
I probably will. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just teaching. But like, people think like that.
Yeah.
And so just, even if you're on a college campus, are you still going to class next? Like, we just got to be cautious. I think we're really seeing a lot of people buy into the city. A lot of the younger folks, even younger than me, I'm 32, and they're moving in there. They have this excitement. They're buying homes there, and they're like hungry to make it look good. And, there's a lot of money out west, right? A lot of development going on out here in the county. So I don't know. I don't know what the exact answer would be. I cannot deny some of the things they brought up about the city, but I think that I think the young people will help drive us in the right direction. That was kind of vague. I really feel like that. But we just gotta cut out the crap that is just, I don't know. We do so much stupid stuff, and you're like, why did we do that? Or why aren't my roads paved? Didn't I pay taxes for that? Yeah. Didn't we get infrastructure money? Like things like that. Like there's just things that, and it's not coming down. I'm not saying anything about like leadership or thing. It's just like we do it to ourselves a lot of times. And I would say overall for the people of St. Louis, when someone comes into town, people will tell you the 4 bad things before they tell you about the 20 great things.
Yeah.
Let's switch that up. Like say, hey, yeah, we have all these great things, and then also, hey, watch out for Highway 64 traffic at 5 p.m. going west, or hey, don't go down a dark, sketchy alley. Make sure you're around people. Isn't that a pretty normal thing? Don't go down a dark street by yourself.
That'd be obvious, yeah.
So I feel like I was kind of all over there, but
No, that's good though. But don't you think that's part of the reason why, your podcast has been successful is because you are focusing on all the positive.
Oh yeah,
right? It's not.
Yeah.
People want to hear about something that was underrated they didn't know about, and something positive, and you're spotlighting some of the best brands that we have, not only locally but nationally. It's a positive light. So I think it's awesome. I think it's a great message. Just there's so many great resources. It just takes effort to kind of figure out if we want to go down there. What is applicable to what we like. What are we comfortable doing. There's a lot of great resources in the city. We just got to kind of do our own research and not necessarily maybe read what the general media may be painting. If that's fair.
I think that's what the power of social media really is. I have a lot of friends in the traditional media realm, and you need to know what's going on. I think where we help on our side with social is, we show people what's going on, the good. You turn on the news in an hour, you're going to see the 5 bad things. You tune in tonight at 10, you're going to see the one good thing and the one good story. We do that. We share all the good stuff every single day. It's our city has so much to offer. It's like they need to cut the 1% out of my taxes. As much as I like hype up the city and I drive in tourism, or the city
now we're gonna add the 4th topic, which is gonna be politics.
No, politics. Like I drive in so much tourism and stuff. I don't get paid to say all that, right? But I'm just like, guys. Like literally when I used to travel for my corporate job, I used to go to all these different places. And to me, it's like, it's really not that hard. We just make like St. Louis is really stuck on legacy and the way it was. And we see how that's gotten us to this point. So let's switch it up. We know what has worked, or we see what hasn't worked. So let's be different. I will say this, even within the social media space I'm in, we're starting to see some of the old things that St. Louis has done come into our realm. But I think where we're at, a lot of us is like, we have seen that. We're separating ourselves from that. Yeah. And we have what it takes to reach the masses. So you guys can try to bring that in our realm, but we know why a lot of us started for the good, to really help places that didn't even have a shot. Hey,
on the map before,
$500 to be advertised with us, whatever. Now we're giving those people an opportunity to have a line out the door next week.
Maybe a chance. Yeah. It's awesome. It's a great message. Really love it, man. Great to meet you.
Yeah, same. Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. We talked about the power of social media marketing, his success. If you get a chance, you think you have any needs, check out Space Mission Marketing or his Instagram handle, Braden STL on Instagram. Yep. And then obviously, inspired a few people there at the end with some of the opportunities that we have in the city. So again, Braden Tuwaldi, appreciate it. I'm Patrick Monahan, your host. Thanks all for your time. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much. Have a great day.